Hello and welcome to round number 2 of the 2020 New South Wales KZ2 Super Series. I'm Matt Nipris from Go Race Promotions, about to bring you all the action from the final race of round number 2. But before we get into that, we need to run through what has happened in the early part of the morning of this race. It started off as a very, very dreary looking morning with cloud cover all over the circuit. It wasn't seeming to dampen the spirit of any of our drivers, as everyone was excited and very keen to get back on track and racing, with a couple of new faces as well, as we see William Seals, number 95 DR card, and we focus on Chris Sutherland, the current reigning champion of the KZ2 Super Series. So as drivers headed out onto the circuit, finally, after such a long break with the coronavirus, they were met with a rather slippery and greasy track conditions on the day of practice. It was very wet, and thankfully, as qualifying started, sun started to break through the clouds. At the end of qualifying for this 18 kart field was this man here in the number 12, Chris Sutherland, who set the fastest lap of the race, 0.003 of a second faster than Matthew Urban, while Greg Holden in number 21 was fastest in the Masters. Time for racing, and it was brilliant to hear the sound and the sight of KZ2s firing off the line, and the entire field piled into turn number 1, thankfully very cleanly. And we had battles all the way up and down the field, with drivers up and down coming in very close proximity. Jack Lemon, great improvement from the young man in the Ricardo kart, dicing with Tyler Everingham, and in fact keeping pace with the top 6. Great improvement shown from Jack, as Sutherland was under all manners of pressure from the likes of Erdman and Zamprogno. Michael Pest there pushing really hard into turn 1, grabbing that inside brake. As we mentioned before, the top 6 were nose to tail, top 7 really, including Jack Lemon. They were nose to tail, but thankfully no one really getting stuck into each other. It was very entertaining and clean racing. But right now, taking out 2 races is that man there, Zach Zamprogno, and they are the man they are all chasing. Let's have a look at how they are starting. So on the front row, it's Zach Zamprogno and Rhys Cohen. On row number 2, it's 2 champions. Matthew Erdman, of course, 3-time champion of the KZ2 Super Series. Alongside him, the reigning champion of Chris Sutherland. Dean Starling and Super 2 driver Tyler Everingham will start off row 3. Jack Lemon and Eugene Lee off row 4. Greg Holden, first of the KZ Masters. He'll start off 9th. Next to him will be Ben Edwards, rounding out that top 10. Greg really punching above his weight in the KZ2 Masters class. Of course, those guys are 10 kilos heavier than KZ2. As we go over the page, debutant William Seal starts out of 11th. Next to him will be Craig Deans, second of the Masters. Daniel Orsini and Glenn Linnett make up row 7. Michael Pesh and Trevor Hall make up row number 8. And row number 9 will be Jake Rossman and Matthew Ferguson, although I don't think we have Matthew Ferguson on track. Unfortunately, I think Matthew has run into a few problems and he will not take part in the final race. As we look out over this magnificent circuit, nestled up in the Blue Mountains, about 2.5 to 3 hours drive west of Sydney, and about 30 minutes east of Bathurst, and is a track that just continues to deliver outstanding racing every single time we go racing here. And we are very glad that you can be joining us here on YouTube and on Facebook, right around the world, wherever you may be joining us for this race. And a huge thank you to the Combined Districts Kart Club for putting on such a fantastic meeting. It's actually about 2:30 at the time of recording, so they have really hammered through the schedule, and they'll give a lot of our drivers a very early trip home. So very grateful for all their efforts. As we focus on the front 2 drivers, Zach Zamprogno in the number 11 kart and Rhys Cohen in the 94. Drivers using every second they can to get as much warmth into those MG yellow tyres as they round the final corner, and they start to take their spot on the starting grid. So here we go. 17 drivers are lining up on this grid. What a sight to behold for the New South Wales KZ2 Super Series. As we are set for a start, the lights are on. And they're out, and we're away and racing. A brilliant start from the front row and the second row as well. But it looks like it will be Zach Zamprogno who gets the whole shot through turn number 1 as the entire field piles through turn number 1. Looks like everyone got through cleanly, and it is indeed Zach Zamprogno who gets that whole shot just ahead of Rhys Cohen and Matthew Erdman. Chris Sutherland, he's dropped a little bit off Erdman, and he's falling into the clutches of Dean Starling. But we look back at William Seal, did not get a good stay. He's falling behind Pesk. We'll keep an eye on the 95 as he makes his way through the field. But we're about to tick off lap number 1 of 20 as Zach Zamprogno leads the field. As we see a couple of tight battles there, Eugene Lee battling with Greg Holden and Ben Edwards. Here comes William Seal up, splitting the centre of Orsini and Pesh, and Rossman will go around the outside of Orsini. So Orsini's having a tough start to lap number 2. Eugene Lee running a little bit wide there, falling behind Greg Holden. We now see William Seal on the back of Glenn Leonard. As we look back at our leaders, the top 4, they're just starting to skip away now from Dean Starling, and Dean Starling coming under all sorts of pressure from Tyler Everingham in that number 7 Praga. As we see Zamprogno adjusting the blind on that radiator. As we see continue to focus on this battle. So everyone's sort of split up into groups of 2. We have Zamprogno and Cohen, and then Erdman and Sutherland, then Starling and Everingham. And that is your top 6. As we're just starting to see Zamprogno and Cohen, they're just starting to skip away slightly. But it will just take one mistake from either one of these 2 guys, and Erdman and Sutherland will be all over the rear bar. But so far, it's looking as though Zamprogno is in a very comfortable position. As we look back through the field, just see Craig Deans flashing by through there, is just behind, I think that was Eugene Lee in the number 71 CRG. So the field streams through. We're going to focus on this battle now between Dean Starling and Tyler Everingham. Of course, Everingham, current Super 2 driver, and he has really met his match with the KZ2 veteran of Dean Starling. Starling looks over his shoulder, although that kart's not looking as stable as we've seen it all morning. Certainly the rear end just does not want to stay in line with the front end, and Starling is not 100% comfortable out there at the moment. As they come out of Siberia, Starling's got a little bit of a gap. He's comfortable. He just doesn't seem to have the pace to run with the top 4 ahead of him. As we see Everingham starting to tap a little bit of a Morse code on Starling's rear bar. As they make their way through turn number 1, again, Everingham doesn't have a chance just yet. He's really pressuring the number 4. The blowtorch is out, and Jack Lemon's starting to make his way onto the back of Everingham now. As we see, Starling doesn't quite get Siberia right. That's going to open the door for Everingham. Everingham sticks the nose in and gets the move done. Now Starling, he didn't get a clean run through the hairpin. They'll leave him open to Jack Lemon. Lemon in the number 44 Ricciardo. He's having a round of his life in the KZ2 series. And he is now next to take on Dean Starling in the number 4 CRG. Everingham's already skipped away a little bit. Oh, look at that. Lemon, he just gives a little tap on the rear bar for Starling. So Starling is coming under all sorts of pressure and under attack from everyone, everywhere he looks, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait and see how Starling manages to bounce back. He's a very experienced competitor in KZ2. As we look back, Seal has managed to make his way through most of the masters. He's got around Linnett and Deans. As we now focus on this 5-way battle, we have Glenn Linnett, Michael Pesh, Jake Rosserman, Daniel Orsini, and Trevor Hall. Now, Pesh, Linnett, and Orsini, they are masters competitors. These are drivers who are over the age of 35, and they have a combined kart and driver weight of 188 kilos. And it's a class that is quite unique to Karting New South Wales, and we thank Karting New South Wales for their support with the KZ Masters. As we're seeing, Rossman, kart's not looking too stable for him. He's going to come under attack from Orsini. Gets it sideways again out of the hairpin. He's really under pressure from Orsini. Orsini just looks like he's looking to get some points today and trying not to get involved with Rosserman. Rosserman cooks it too much into turn number 1, and Orsini will make his way through on the number 23. So now Orsini will try and work his way back onto the back of Michael Pesch and Glenn Linnett. As we look back at the leaders, 11 laps to go. We can see that Cohen has dropped right off of Zamprogno. He's fallen into the clutches of Erdman and Sutherland, and similarly, Eugene Lee has fallen into the clutches of William Seal. So William Seal has definitely got a lot of pace. Just needs to get those starts sorted, and he will be at the front with the likes of Zamprogno, Cohen, Erdman and Sutherland. So they make their way through Siberia. Look at the straight line pace that Lee has managed to get out of Siberia. Good run there. Puts a bit of a gap between himself and Seal. As Eugene Lee really looking much more cool, calm and collected than what I've seen in previous races. He's just really relaxed so much more in the last couple of seasons of racing KZ, and it's great to see him performing well against William Seal. Seal again trying to close that gap. He's trying to get the pressure back onto Lee. He hasn't quite been able to find an opening just yet. We can see in the background there Craig Deans in the number 25. He's having a very lonely drive. Second in the KZ Masters, of course, and nice and calm as we look back at this battle for third in the Masters. Daniel Orsini has managed to get around Michael Pesch. Michael Pesch, a lot of damage on the front of that 46 CRG. So I don't know if there was contact between himself and Linnett or maybe Orsini. But either way, there's a nice big dent in the front of that CRG. Michael will not be real impressed by that. As Orsini gets a bad run out of Siberia, that allows Linnett to pull away slightly. Orsini is back onto him again, and he's got pressure from Pesch and Trevor Hall. Jake Rossman's, I think, made another mistake and fallen behind Hall. As they make their way onto the main straight again, Linnett continues to lead Orsini and Pesch in this battle for third in the KZ Masters. Linnett looking very relaxed in the number 88 TB kart. It's not quite able to get such a clean run through Siberia as we see Pesch around the outside. That's a game move. In fact, it hasn't worked. He's off the track into the tyre barrier, and you can see the disappointment in Pesch's body language. That was an absolutely cruel way to finish his race. He was having the race of his life against Orsini and Linnett. And unfortunately, a little mistake like that has put him off the track and ended his race. As we refocus on this battle, this is second overall. Rhys Cohen, as we detailed a little bit earlier, has fallen into the clutches of Matthew Erdman and Chris Sutherland. So Cohen, he's now coming under all sorts of pressure with Matthew Erdman right up behind him. And Chris Sutherland is just sitting there waiting for any little mistakes that he can capitalise on. Doesn't take much encouragement for Sutherland to stick the nose in. But right now he just looks content to sit behind and watch what happens between these two. Cohen has a little look over his shoulder at Matthew Erdman. So maybe Erdman's kart is just starting to come on. And he's got a bucket load of pace on him at the moment. As they're coming on some lap traffic, that's Jake Rossman there in the number 23. So we'll wait and see if lap traffic plays a part in this race. And in fact, hand race up in the air for Rossman. And unfortunately, that has balked Cohen. And that's given Erdman all the opening he needed. We could just see that Rossman, he put his hand up in the air. He's back up to speed. So I'd say he was just trying to get out of the way. And in doing that, that has balked Cohen and cost him second position. So Matthew Erdman, he inherits second position after reading the traffic just a little bit better. And now Cohen will be defending from Chris Sutherland. And Sutherland will be desperate to get back onto the podium after starting on pole position. The heats did not go his way. And ended up starting off the second row for this final. So he will want to make amends. He will want to get past Cohen and onto the podium. But right now, Cohen is just looking comfortable and relaxed. Erdman's starting to skip away as we see 3 laps left to run in this race. To see that interesting driving style from Cohen, how he leans to the outside of the corner. I think he's always had that driving style from Tag. It's very interesting to watch as we now see more lap traffic for Erdman. Linnett just gets out of the way of Erdman and does a very good job to get himself out of the way of Cohen and Sutherland as they round the final corner onto the main straight again. Now we can see that Lee and Seal have managed to close the gap onto Greg Holden. It's not technically for position, but for Lee, that has put a cart between himself and William Seal. But we're going to try and find our leader, Zach Zamprogno. Unfortunately, we have not given this guy any airtime whatsoever. He's just been out in front. But Zach Zamprogno, he will come around the final corner and start the final lap for round number 2 of the 2020 season. This very interrupted season, it has to be said. And Zamprogno, he bins it, but he manages to keep it going. That's going to allow Erdman to close up a lot of time onto him. You can see that Zamprogno, he knows he's made a mistake. Looked over his shoulder instantly. It's going to put a little bit of pressure on him. He has another look over his shoulder. He's still got a bit of a gap. Erdman is closing, but I think he's going to run out of time in this race. So Zach Zamprogno rounds the second to last corner, and now the final corner. And Zach Zamprogno in the number 11 CRG will take out round number 2 of the 2020 season. Well done to Zach Zamprogno. We're going to try and find where Greg Holden is. There he is. He has lost an overall position to William Seal, but he will take out round number 3 for the KZ2 Masters. Craig Deans should be coming around soon. There he is. A very lonely race for Craig Deans, and he will come home in second. Glenn Linnett in third for the Masters. So let's have a look at the final standings. Zach Zamprogno finishes on top ahead of Matthew Erdman, Rhys Cohen and Christopher Sutherland. A brilliant battle between those 4 drivers. Tyler Everingham, our Super 2 driver, manages to sneak his way into the top 5. Jack Lemon has managed to get ahead of Dean Starling, so a brilliant drive from Jack Lemon. Great performance from him. Dean Starling probably be asking himself a few questions after that race, but he'll probably bounce back. Ben Edwards, Eugene Lee and William Seal round out the top 10. Greg Holden, Craig Deans, Glenn Linnett, Jake Rossman, Daniel Orsini round out your final running order, while Trevor Hall, Michael Pesh and Matthew Ferguson all DNFs. We hope that you have enjoyed that race. It was certainly very enjoyable for us. We hope you have enjoyed the footage from round number 2 of the KZ2 Super Series. We'll be back in action on the 19th and 20th of September when we head out to Eastern Creek International Kart Track for round number 3 of the 2020 season. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you then. From all of us at Go Race Promotions, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.